Welcome in, everybody, to the Flagship Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving week to all. I'm Chip Brown of Horns247.com, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, proud Tampa Catholic graduate, part-time ambassador for the Florida Chamber of Commerce, the one and only Eric Henry. Eric, happy Thanksgiving week. We are previewing Texas and Texas A&M. And things are a little different this year. Last year, it was winner take all. Texas versus Texas A&M for a berth in the SEC title game. This year, Texas A&M is playing for a berth in the SEC title game. Texas is playing the role of spoiler. Texas 8-3, Texas A&M 11-0. But the Aggies are coming to Austin. They have not been in Austin since 2010. They won that game in 2010 because Texas sucked that year. Texas went 5-7 under Mac Brown the year after reaching the national championship game and losing to Alabama. But Texas has won 2 in a row against the Aggies, dating back to 2011 because we had a 12-year hiatus. And then Texas won in College Station last year, 17-7. And Eric, that was your first Texas A&M Lone Star showdown. You wrote about it in your 4 Downs column, just how eye-popping that experience was for you.
Yeah, Chip. And, before I go there, you talk about me being the part-time ambassador for the state of Florida. That may be needed for Longhorn fans coming up come bowl season. But I digress.
Oh,
yeah, that
can't spell citrus without UT, right?
Can't spell citrus without UT, as Steve Spurrier would say. Chip, that was eye-opening because all I'd known prior in terms of Texas rivalries was Texas Tech. And I know I said in air quotes, right? Horns fans feel about that in relation to Tech fans. But, of course, the Red River Shootout, right? So I didn't know what to expect with the Lone Star Showdown, but I don't know, Chip, if it was the first one after the long hiatus. I don't know if it was because A&M, obviously has their feelings towards Texas and it being at Kyle Field. I don't know if it was because just being downfield pregame, the amount of people with ties to Texas who were there. Right? The state of Texas in some form or another. But that was really special. And I know Horns fans, probably won't appreciate this, but even, A&M's entrance to the Kanye West song Power and the whole lights, and it was goosebumps, and then the way Texas Longhorns came out and played that game, physically annihilating, to quote Mike Elko, his Texas A&M Aggies, everything about that was special. So as I wrote about, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the atmosphere is in Austin. Last thing I'll say, Chip, before I pass it back to you, I guess I'm legendarily known on the beat for being early to the stadium. I'm going to get down there a little early just so I can just walk around Bevo Boulevard, just get a feel for what it is like from the Texas side of things, the game being in Austin. Because I know what I felt. You and I walking together, right? Walked in. Or actually, Chip, was you and I? No, or no, me. No, I think, we walked in.
We were together on the field.
We were together. Yeah, we walked in together. And, getting the feeling of what that was like, being in College Station. I just want to get a feel for what the atmosphere is like around the 40 acres come Friday.
Yeah. It's like no other. And it's in the difference is in state. You have the border war with the Red River Shootout. It's neighboring states, border war, all that. Texas A&M, man, it's the people you work with. It's the water cooler. It's the house. You could have a Longhorn married to an Aggie, house divided. Friendships go on frost for a week. Because it means that much. And when Texas A&M left to go to the SEC, they were so excited to be doing their own thing away from Texas. And then lo and behold, Texas shows back up on their front door The SEC did not keep A&M apprised until the last minute when the vote was basically already insured. As a consolation prize, the SEC gave A&M the first home game in the rekindling of the Lone Star Showdown. Thus, the game in College Station last year, which Texas went down and, crashed the party. So can Texas crash the party again? And that's what we'll get into, Eric. It's an interesting matchup because Texas A&M has the great win at Notre Dame. It came on the last, fourth down touchdown, 41-40. There might have been a holding call on the play earlier. Notre Dame fumbled a snap. I thought I was watching Tony Romo and the Cowboys and, against the Seahawks in the playoffs years ago. But Texas A&M won the game. And that's easily their best win of the season because their schedule looked tough at the beginning of the year, having to play at LSU, at Missouri, but LSU, we know, crumbled, and Missouri did not have their starting quarterback. They were playing a freshman who went 7 of 22. Nonetheless, A&M has taken care of all the business. Had some close games. Had a close game against Auburn, 16-10 in College Station. Had a 3-point game with Arkansas on the road. But Marcel Reed at quarterback. They've got explosive receivers in Casey Concepcion, Mario Craver, Roman Bethel Johnson, and a running game. I don't think we'll see Le'Veon Moss in this game, but I do think we're going to see Reuben Owens and arguably the best offensive line in college football, Eric. And defensively, Cassius Howell, one of the sack leaders, and A&M. How about this? Your 3 sack leading teams in college football right now: Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Texas. So the pass rush for both teams in this game should be worth watching.
Chip, you kind of, nailed where I was going to go in terms of, I think this is a game just like last year. You can say it was won in the trenches with Texas's ability to really own the line of scrimmage. I'd say on both sides of the ball, but especially offensively, I think it's the same thing this time around. And you noted it, right? In terms of, front fours, front sevens, you talk about a group, both Texas and Texas A&M get the job done. But entering week 12, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn by saying the Aggies have a clear-cut advantage on the offensive line. Now, the question is, can Texas's offensive line rise to the occasion? We saw, guys down the stretch like Trevor Gooseby, kind of step up when pressed into action, right? Is this the type of game? And it was asked of some of the players on Monday, if this one just means more, right? And that stuff sounds kind of hokey and cheesy and whatnot, but Chip, you nailed it when talking about the I don't say importance, but the essence of this game, right? Being in state. How many guys, whether it's on both rosters, have probably played against each other, high school, maybe junior high, etc., right? They grew up with this rivalry. Is there that little bit extra that you can come up with in this type of game? If you're a Cole Hudson, right, who certainly, from Frisco, knows this game really well. A Connor Robertson from Westlake, right? Is there just that little bit more you can come up with? I think all those things matter. DJ Campbell, right? And, I won't go too long, Chip, because we got a lot to cover and not a lot of time, but DJ Campbell's a guy, highly talented guy, senior, barring something we don't know, he's going to be playing his last game at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium. He's a Texan, right? Does he kind of get that little bit extra as the guy who kind of, quote unquote, should be the leader on this offensive line? Anyhow, I guess where I'm going with that is I think for Texas, in order to win this game, they're going to have to win it on both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And last year, Texas ran the ball 243 yards rushing, 186 yards rushing on 33 carries by Quintravian Wisner, who's been, came up big against Oklahoma as well. 22 carries, 94 yards, had 5 receptions for 34 yards in that game. He was my MVP in that win over Oklahoma. And we really haven't seen him be a focal point of the offense since. And part of that, Eric, is because of the surge by Arch Manning. Arch Manning, who has, come to life in the last 4 games. He's averaging more than 300 yards passing, 7 touchdowns passing, 1 interception, and is just playing at a high level. I mean, was incredible against Arkansas, counting for 6 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing, 1 receiving, becoming the first Texas player ever to do that. Eric, Arch Manning, I mean, I asked Steve Sarkisian on Monday, you've had Quintravian Wisner come through big for you. How patient are you willing to be with the running game? He said, look, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. If we got to run it, if we got to throw it, if we can do both, great. But don't you get the sense that Steve Sarkisian is enjoying having the gunslinging Arch Manning running wild now with his big cannon arm, whipping that ball all over the place?
Super quick, Chip. Did you say that Arch Manning was the first player in program history to run, pass, and receive a touchdown in a game?
In a game.
Yeah, I'm only mentioning this because it involves Chip's beloved Detroit Lions as well as Texas. We were given that information on Saturday, but I think we got a correction that Bobby Lane actually did it in 1946.
Bobby Lane.
So I only mentioned that because it involves Chip's Detroit Lions as well as the Texas Longhorn great Bobby Lane. Saw that correction yesterday. So it's not on Chip because we all had that information as well on Saturday.
So Arch Manning and Bobby Lane now share this unique distinction.
Correct. Chip, I laugh because if you ask Steve Sarkisian, anytime you'll about the running game, right? Maybe not right now. If you ask him anytime, any other time, he'll say, my offense starts with the run game, right? What do I want to pack when I go on the road, right? A run game and a defense. I've always had a 1,000-yard rusher. And I'm saying all that to say, I do think there's a little part of Steve Sarkisian that is enjoying the fact that his quarterback is coming to the other end of what was a bad stretch, right? Let's just call it a spade a spade. The start of the year was not great for Arch Manning. I'm going to take out the San Jose State and Sam Houston games. The first 5, 6-ish, 7 weeks were up and down, right? And I do think there's something, maybe it's just a former college quarterback, Chip, and Steve Sarkisian, who's been there and has lived that life, who was enjoying seeing his quarterback come out of the other end of that. Chip, we asked, I asked this, and Steve Sarkisian said it earlier in the year, that, I'm going to enjoy seeing Arch on the other side of this. I wish I could remember exactly the question I asked him, but as I'm talking, I remember Steve Sarkisian saying that. So I do think there's part of that really does lie within him. Now, is it that, and in conjunction with he knows deep down this team just can't run the ball this year? Maybe there's that too.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he could have stuck with it against Georgia. He said we went down 14-3. We had to make a decision. And it was a decision that, can I trust my defense? He said, we're down 14-3. Do we want to go down 21-3? And then the defense came up with, forced 4 straight punts and an interception. Texas woulda, coulda, shoulda, kept running the football. Who knows? It doesn't matter now. They lost that game by 25. So here we are. And, A&M's defense is interesting, Eric, and we'll talk separately in a podcast previewing A&M. So keep your eyeballs out for that as well this week. But they've been really good, and they've been prone to some shootouts, kind of like Texas's defense. Texas was giving up 11.3 points per game through the first 7 games. Now they're giving up 35.3 points per game through the last 4 games. and have been in shootouts with Vanderbilt, in addition to Arkansas. So, and Mississippi State, obviously, of course, that was wild, 45-38 in overtime. And that was really the beginning of Arch's surge. And he talked about that this week. Said, when you're down 17, you gotta come up with the goods. And he did. What did you think of Arch this week, Eric? It seems, unbelievable growth from being labeled as possibly the first flop in the history of college football after the loss to Florida, to now, you look at his numbers compared to Marcel Reed. They're talking about Marcel Reed, a top 5 finalist for the Heisman. Their numbers are almost identical. What did you think of Arch Manning this week?
Well, the first thing I thought of Arch Manning is he certainly was ready to get back to watching film to let the audience in. Texas's practice schedule this week, since, obviously it's Thanksgiving week, so school is out, is they're practicing in the afternoon, which meant players were coming up to talk to us, getting right back to the film room. So that was the first thing I noted. No, I think, Chip, what I took away is it's been a year. It's been a year for Arch Manning. And I do wonder, he's 21 years old. I wonder now, shortly before December, the holidays, everything that comes with playing quarterback at the University of Texas, everything that comes with being Arch Manning. Not to say if he's running out of gas, because that's not the way I want to frame it. But I think it's just been a year. It's been a growing year. It's been a learning year. It's been a developing year for Arch Manning in so many ways. Chip, I wonder, truly, Chip, if the value of this year is maybe showing Arch Manning to himself, like, this is what life is going to be for me, right? He got a taste of it last year when he came in for Quinn Ewers, and all of a sudden it was, oh man, Arch throws for 4 touchdowns against UTSA. He's the Heisman favorite, right? Or Heisman candidate. And then you come back against ULM. He doesn't have the game he would like, and then against Mississippi State, he got a taste of it. But I think the value in this year is just him learning what life is going to be like as Arch Manning, as a full-time starting quarterback. And to kind of bring it back to your question, definitely seemed locked in, definitely seemed, really intent and focused. But I think more than anything else, what I took away is just a guy who is, again, I'm not exhausted, because I don't want to frame it that way, but it's been a year. And he's more than ever, it sounds cliche, but I think it really applies with him. He just truly only cares about what the people in his sphere think, and everything else is just white noise.
Yeah. Yeah. He's learned a lot. He's aged.
Yeah.
With wisdom, you hope, not physically. He's aged mentally in this football season.
With the amount of hits he's taken, it might be physical too, Chip, but I digress.
Yeah. He's taken some hits. And really, when you talk to his teammates about their respect for him, they all mention how after the Florida game, when he got hit more than a dozen times, he didn't miss a snap of practice the next week for Oklahoma. They all talk about it. And so kudos to Arch Manning. The guy is anything but entitled. He is a grinder. And even though he's got all the commercials and he's got all the family lineage as the first family of football, this is a guy who grinds, and we'll see if he can do it on a center stage Friday night. Texas will be the primary show in town, along with Bama and Auburn. So, I think there will be a lot of people tuning in to see Arch Manning. Don't you?
No. Listen, there will be a lot of people tuning to see Arch Manning because his name's Arch Manning. But no, Chip, I agree. I think especially given the holiday, the holiday slate, you're probably going to have a lot of people, let's just call a spade, who are going to watch Arch Manning play a full game for the first time. People will see the highlights, they'll read the box score, but because of Texas A&M and what they're trying to accomplish in Texas, and them trying to hang on to, I know we'll talk about take it or leave it, clinging to hope of a CFP spot. Yeah, the eyes will be on Arch Manning. I think there are a lot of people who will see Arch Manning for the first time, truly, from start to finish.
Yeah. Well, okay. If we're talking Texas and the state of Texas, let's I think it's fair to say the offense is doing this and the defense is doing something other than going straight up with all the points that they've given up in the last 4 games. What's your level of concern about the Texas defense?
I talked about it. I don't know if it was, I believe it was in our post-game reaction, Chip. I do wonder if this defense is just running out of gas. I don't mean that to sound negative, but this is a group that played a lot of football, right? They had to play lights out football for the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of the year to really keep Texas, in things. Ohio State.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick on this, Eric. In the last 2 games alone, the Texas defense has been on the field for 35 minutes against Georgia. Texas offense was only on the field for 24 minutes and some change. And against Arkansas, the defense was on the field for 34 minutes and some change, while the Texas offense was only on the field for 25 minutes. You and I both know that equates to more like 2 hours of a 3.5-hour game.
I appreciate you making that point, because I'll just piggyback off of it and say, you talk about those 2 games. Let's not forget games earlier in SEC play against Kentucky, against Mississippi State.
39 minutes Kentucky had the ball.
39 minutes and over 80 plays. And I don't have the TOP for the Mississippi State game. I don't know if you have it, if you want to call it off real quick.
That one actually ended up being neck and neck, both at 30 minutes.
So then I'll make the point this way. They had to play over 80 plays for the second straight week against a fast break offense, Jeff Levy, right? So it doesn't get any easier despite the TOP being neck and neck. That's me just saying this defense, maybe they're just running out of gas, right? The injuries didn't help. Injuries to Michael Taft didn't help. Injuries to Anthony Hill didn't help. But I don't look at this defense and think, oh man, their level of play is just, suddenly, cratering. I think, quite frankly, a couple injuries, a lot of football being played, just be running out of steam.
Yeah, and they've been substituting a lot on the back end, getting younger players in. Cade Phillips at corner got his first start over Jalen Gilbo against Arkansas. You've seen a lot of Xavier Filsaime, Jonah Williams, the highest rated player in the Texas #1 ranked 2025 recruiting class. And so, Steve Sarkisian said this week that he feels like guys have been trying to make the play instead of just doing their job. And it's led to coverage busts. And even Michael Taft. Michael Taft was part of those coverage busts against Georgia. And Michael Taft said, I've got to be better. And so, we're still waiting to, Steve Sarkisian hopes Anthony Hill, his leading tackler, is going to be available on Friday against Texas A&M, but he had no update for us on Monday, and that's the only time we will speak to him this week. So Texas fans nervously hoping that Anthony Hill will show up, because Texas gave up 188 yards rushing to Arkansas, Eric, and including a 40-yard blast on the first play of the game by Mike Washington, who also ran over Michael Taft on his way to a touchdown. We hadn't seen Texas get gashed in the run game like that since Florida. Now I'll say this, and feel free to jump in on that, but this is the kind of game where Steve Sarkisian doesn't have to say anything to the players, because as you mentioned earlier, they all know each other. They all know guys on A&M's roster. They went to high school with them. They played against them in high school. They went to camps with them, whatever. This is a game where adrenaline takes over. This is a game where everybody's going to have a little extra juice. So who does that favor? Usually it favors the more talented team or the team with the more talented quarterback. But these quarterbacks have virtually the same numbers, Eric.
I think it could favor Texas if for no other reason they're at home. That's the reason why, right? And it's interesting because I think that Texas has been definitely helped by, not helped, but if they fell behind 21 points, Mississippi State at home, you'd feel the pressure of that home crowd at DKR. They fell behind on the road, so they're kind of able to, bond together, bring together at that point. But in relation to how, you talk about getting that little extra juice, I do think being in front of your home crowd for all the Longhorns, the local guys like Michael Taff and others who will have one shot, Anthony Hill, for all intents and purposes, we think he's going to the NFL, one shot to play this game at home. I think it'll help the home team, Chip.
Yeah. All right. Last thing before we get to some take it or leave it. Special teams. Texas has Ryan Niblett. A&M has KC Concepcion. Texas is number 2 in punt returns. A&M is number 8. KC Concepcion has 2 punt return touchdowns, just like Ryan Niblett. So that is about a draw. But when it comes to, and punting is about a draw, but when it comes to field goals, A&M's Randy Bond is just 11 of 18 on the season. That's 61%. And he has missed 3 of his last 6 field goal attempts. He's only 5 of 8 from 40 to 49 yards, and he's 0 for 3, 50 and beyond. So if it comes down to a field goal, Eric, I like Mason Shipley. All right. You ready for some take it or leave it?
We'll be back with some take or leave it right after this break, Jim.
All right. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Flagship Podcast. It is time for a little take it or leave it. My man Eric Henry last week made up some ground. He went 2 of 3. I only went 1 of 3. So now we're all tied up. Eric,
go ahead, Chip. Yep.
Congratulations on that. Are you ready for some take it or leave it?
I am ready, and it is on you. So I will get us going here, and you can serve.
Okay.
Here we go. There we go.
Take it or leave it, number 1. Texas forces at least 2 turnovers. Eric, take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. I do think this is a game that Texas will force at least 1. You probably see it being a forced fumble, because Texas has had some success, especially if Anthony Hill can be back in the lineup. But Marcel Reed has done a fair job taking care of the football, so I am going to leave it. Chip, what says you?
All right, I'm going to take it. Texas is plus 10 in turnover margin. A&M is minus 5. I think they fumble a couple times, so I'm going to take it.
Take it or leave it, number 2. Arch Manning throws for at least 250 yards against Texas A&M. Take it or leave it, Chip.
You know what? I'm going to take this because I think Steve Sarkisian is going to be all about Arch Manning slinging it. So I'm going to take this, Eric. What say you?
This is again where, I guess technically I don't have to purely go against Chip, but we can't end in a tie. And I'm trying to guess where I think Chip's going to go with the last one. But you know what? I'm going to take it. We'll bring it down to the last one.
Smart man. All right, take it or leave it, number 3. Texas deserves a spot in the college football playoff with a win over Texas A&M. Take it or leave it.
Now, to be clear, we'll grade this one. We will actually, score this one based on the outcome. Even though the question is deserves, right? It's kind of subjective. We'll score this one. Chip, I am leaving it. I know that is not going to make Longhorn fans happy. The only way that I see Texas being deserving of a CFP spot is if they beat A&M by double digits. That is a resounding enough win to say, hey, that was a team that is doing this, or this, I should say, for the purposes of the camera, trending in the right direction as the season ends. If it is a 1-point win or a 3-point win, you can feel like, okay, maybe that was a little bit of, hey, rivalry game, so on and so forth. I'm sorry. This will not make Longhorn fans happy. The game at Florida was a game Texas should have won. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if they win by 10, I think you and I are both saying they would deserve a spot
Correct.
in the college football playoff. So let's just keep that in mind as we score this later. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Flagship Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We'll be back right after the game on Friday. So make sure that you like and subscribe to the Horns247 YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of the Flagship Podcast. For Eric Henry, I am Chip Brown. Until next time, we'll see you over at horns247.com. Happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe and keep the faith.